Thanks to a recent amendment in copyright law, neighbouring rights are now being introduced into China. In addition, Chinese performers are able to collect these royalties from societies across the world. But don't worry if it's a term you've never heard before, because you're certainly not alone. That's why we're here to help clear the confusion for artists, rights holders, and managers alike. So what are they? Simply put, neighbouring rights are a sound recording royalty for any performer who has made an audible contribution to a recording that is played in public. From dexterous guitar solos to simple hand claps, if you featured, you could be paid neighbouring rights. Here at IAFAR, or the International Association for Artists and Rights Holders, we're helping artists across the world to better understand this income stream and take back what they're owed. We're a non-profit, neutral organisation made up of industry professionals, and it's through their experience that we're able to offer game-changing resources. From legal documents to interactive seminars, our focus is to protect, educate and advocate for those who are entitled to neighbouring rights. Signing up is simple, and we have a range of membership options available. So whether you're a student or you represent a number of artists, get the access you need today. All you have to do is visit iafar.co.uk and click Join Us. From there, you'll have all the tools you need to learn about this income stream and potentially claim up to 50% more on your future royalties. We hope to see you soon. The world of music royalties can be a confusing place, but it doesn't have to be. In this video, we're going to talk about something entirely new to China, and that could help you claim up to 50% more of your future royalties. Thanks to a recent amendment in copyright law, neighbouring rights are now being introduced into China. In addition, Chinese performers are able to collect these royalties from societies across the world. Don't worry if it's a term you've never heard before, you're certainly not alone. That's why we're here to help you learn more, whether you're the artist, rights holder, manager or agent. We'll lead you through the confusion. To offer a basic introduction and to get us started, here's IAFAR board members Shari Hoffman and Ann Tausis at a recent web event that you can watch now in full on our website.
The thing is, what are neighboring rights and where do they come from? So neighboring rights are also known as related rights because they sit next to the publishing copyright. It doesn't mean anything between one country exchanging with their neighbor in another country. But what the difference is, it's a sound recording royalty for any performer or master rights holder who has contributed to a recording that's been publicly performed. Tell us a little bit about where neighboring rights come from.
Yeah, so as you rightly said, it's a royalty that comes from the physical recording. Well, it's not so much physical anymore, but the recording. Anyone who, so it's either the rights holder, so that will be the label, or the self-releasing artist that owns their own master rights. So it's that's one share of neighbouring rights, and the other share is the performer royalties, and that is featured artists and any non-featured, so session musicians. It could be anyone who's made an audible contribution to a recording. Those are the interested parties who receive a royalty. So if you came into the studio and did a hand clap, that is an audible contribution and you are due neighbouring rights. In sort of clubs, pubs, restaurants, shops, etc. The CMOs license those usages and collect that money, and then they kind of distribute according to the rules that they have in place between the labels and the featured and non-featured performers. And also I should mention in some cases it's the same CMO, so the same collection management organization that collects for the label share and the performer share. In some countries, it's different to different organizations. We even have examples where it's split more than that. So in France, for instance, there's one society for the featured performer, and there's another society that is with the non-featured.
So, why are neighbouring rights relevant now? Well, previously it was only countries who had signed up to the Rome Convention that recognised and paid neighbouring rights. However, after recent changes to copyright law that are in effect from the 1st of June 2021, the People's Republic of China will now offer millions of musicians equitable remuneration for their record plays. Sadly though, it's not all plays that earn neighbouring rights. To explain in greater detail, here's a clip of IAFAR President Naomi Asher from another of our web events.
As a general rule, you do not earn neighboring rights from services such as Spotify, YouTube, Deezer, Apple Music, Amazon Prime. I mean, one of the things that we hear quite a lot is people saying, oh, I have all these streams. It's like, that's great. But if that doesn't translate into terrestrial airplay or digital airplay, in depending on where you are, that's not going to translate into neighboring rights. But there are countries, Spain being one of them, is now paying Spotify. Hungary is paying Deezer. And this is also quite a moving landscape in terms of how the different countries are essentially codifying streaming in terms of the various arguments between interactive and non-interactive, and what that means. The UK, obviously, there was a recent letter that Paul McCartney and 150 other artists signed saying that they wanted equitable remuneration to become, payable from streaming, which would change this completely, which would be great. But currently that's not the case. Currently you earn from terrestrial radio, public broadcast, digital radio, but not these sources. So when an artist is looking for an explanation as to why their neighboring rights is not what their publishing income is, you might look at the streaming as the reason. If they're getting a ton of YouTube, but nothing on the radio, then that's it, that's why.
That's the basics covered, so let's recap it with another clip. This time from IAFAR's business and legal head, Stacey Haber.
So here's how the royalties go. This is for non-interactive streaming. So that would be like Pandora, anything where you can't pick the song that you want. The subscription services, the webcasting, they play I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. Now, Whitney Houston will get the performance royalty, the neighboring rights royalty. Dolly Parton, who wrote the song, will not, because this has nothing to do with publishing. They sit next to each other, as you can see, they're side by side, but forget the publishing. Now, if that station played the Dolly Parton version, then Dolly would get the neighboring rights royalty. So it's whoever played on it. So Whitney Houston is the featured contracted performer, and all these guys listed at the bottom, David Foster, Kiki Wallen, Ricky Lawson, they are the non-featured artists, the session players.
So how much is all this worth? To guide us through the numbers, here's legendary composer and chairman of Transparent Entertainment Group, Dennis Dreeth.
So I think, how much is this really worth? And we can look at this, and these are some pretty big numbers. When things started, these were very, really small, but you can look at this as how from about 2016, these have actually stayed pretty constant. We can look at what happens. They obviously fluctuate from year to year. It depends on so many factors in terms of like the market. Probably the biggest fluctuations have been in the US. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. The US is the newest of all of the parties that come to the whole world of neighboring rights. We're not technically neighboring rights here, but we're going to call them neighboring rights for our own purposes. But we have a lot of fluctuation in our rights here, and I think it's probably because of the newness of the industry catching up and all that. I don't know if we're going to spend a lot of time on this, but you can see that this is really worth a great deal of money. And when you look at it, for example, if you look at just Germany, UK, and France, those add up to very similar amounts of money as we see in the US. Now, the US has a huge market, obviously with a very large music market. And the irony is that most of our money comes from very few sources here. So we're segregated into primarily things like subscription services and webcasting, and primarily subscription services generate the most amount of money here, where we have a much broader base of rights that are spread across the rest of Europe. And I think that's part of the volatility of the US market. So I think that's plenty on how much it is. It's pretty obvious that this is really some real money here is available for performers.
So where do we come into all of this? IAFAR, or the International Association for Artists and Rights Holders, is a non-profit, neutral organisation that protects, educates and advocates for those of us in neighbouring rights. We're here to help clear the confusion and make collecting your royalties as streamlined and efficient as possible. Our board is made up of industry specialists from all over the world, and it's through their experience and expertise that we can offer our members game-changing resources. From legal documents to interactive seminars, we're here to help artists take home what they're owed. Signing up is simple. All you have to do is visit iafar.co.uk and select the Join Us button. We hope to see you soon at one of our upcoming events, but for now, here's more on the importance of claiming your royalties, courtesy of our artist testimonials.
Hi, I'm Steve Ferroni. Welcome to my studio. These drums over the years have played with Tom Petty, Duran Duran, Eric Clapton, Whitney Houston, and many others. Just as a songwriter gets paid every time a song is on radio or TV, a session player is owed neighbouring rights royalties for public broadcast as well. If you have made an audible contribution to a recording that gets broadcast, then you owe money for your work. So you need to make sure that you're collecting it. My neighbouring rights income is one of my most important revenue streams. So join IAFAR and learn how to make it one of yours. And don't spend it all in the same place. Love you guys.
Hi, I'm Kelly Lee. I've sung records like I Got You for Duke Dumont and Jax Jones, Second City's I Wanna Feel, and More Than Friends with James Hype, amongst others. Just as a songwriter is paid every time their song is played on radio or TV, a session player is owed neighbouring rights royalty for public broadcast. If you've made an audible contribution to a recording, then you will be owed money for your work. My neighbouring rights income is one of my most important revenue streams.
I'm Trevor Lawrence, sax. I feel very lucky to have been a session musician, songwriter, music arranger, and producer for numerous recordings, including with the Rolling Stones, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Harry Nilsson with John Lennon, and the Pointer Sisters. My newest album, Crater on the Moon, Volumes 1, 2, and 3 by TLQ Plus with Masumi Yamamoto on piano, is available now. I want to tell you something very important that you might not know. If you have made an audible contribution to a recording as a session musician, background singer, featured artist, or producer, you are owed money from your work in the form of neighbouring rights royalties. The income I receive from these rights is among my most important revenue streams. Join the IAFAR.
Hi, I'm Naomi Asher. I'm Vice President of International Neighbouring Rights at Sony Music Publishing. We founded IAFAR nearly 3 years ago to try and create a trade association for neighbouring rights. It's a relatively new income stream. People don't really understand it the way that they understand publishing. Please check out our website, www.iafar.co.uk. That's www.iafar.co.uk. And we really look forward to having you involved, and you can learn more about this income stream. If you become a member, you have access to all sorts of documents, lots of sources, and please do support us, and then we can all work together to try and make this income stream more transparent, more accessible, and advocate for the change that it needs.
Hi, I'm Sherry Hoffman from Transparent Entertainment Group, an agency based in Los Angeles, California. We joined the Independent Association for Artists and Rights Holders to help promote the advocacy and education needed for our community here. There are so many people, so many music creators that don't understand this revenue stream. They only understand, if anything, songwriting and publishing royalties, and they don't understand that there is a performance right that's available to the performer as well as the rights owner of a sound recording. So what you may not be aware of is that here in the United States, the body that collects digital performance royalties is called Sound Exchange. Sound Exchange collects royalties for all performers, whether you're here in the United States, whether you're in China, whether you're in Europe, whether you're in Australia. If you have a qualified recording that's been broadcast in the United States, you can get paid neighboring rights.
So to be a part of an organization that has dedicated itself to educating the public, especially of those of us in the United States who had very little knowledge of this, even with my 40 years of career, to learn about these rights today is just so empowering, and I'm looking to be able to share that information as well as build my own companies around the new found income that's derived from all those sources. But once again, I'm Reggie Calloway, founder of the group Midnight Star and the Calloway Brothers, also director of music royalty funding at Sound Royalties. So it's great to be on the board here and looking forward to spreading the word not only in the U.S. but around the world.
My name is Abby North, and while I am primarily a music publisher, I have learned more about neighboring rights from my association with IAFAR than I ever could have imagined. I'm thrilled to be on the board of IAFAR US, and I'm also involved with IAFAR UK. And as I said, in being involved with these two organizations, I've learned so much about neighboring rights, but I've also been able to share a lot of the information that I learned. And what I've recognized is that so many performers and sound recording owners have no real understanding of how to collect their neighboring rights. They don't know what neighboring rights are to begin with. So to be able to educate, to be able to share information is a real gift, and I'm thankful.